What if your body was labeled broken and instead you found your calling? Lori Landin was diagnosed with ulcerative colitis and told she would be on medication for life. What happened next is a story of healing, purpose, and how one woman turned pain into power. Welcome to WellWaveNOW, your portal for actionable wellness insights. We, Breck Rice, Dr. Bob Levine, and I, Tim Daniels, are your wellness catalysts, committed to elevating your health, enhancing your functionality, and optimizing your performance at every life stage. WellWaveNOW, where timeless wisdom lights your wellness path. So again, today's wellness hero is Lori Landin. She's a mother, teacher, and advocate whose life changed after a diagnosis of ulcerative colitis. Told she'd need medication for life, Lori instead chose a different path, one rooted in knowledge, persistence, and faith in the body's ability to heal. She now uses her story and platform to empower others through the Lori Landin Foundation and ongoing health initiatives.
Well, welcome to the show, Lori. We're so glad to have you.
Thank you so much. I'm grateful to be here.
Well, I think the very best place to start is at the beginning, right? So what led you to your diagnosis, and what were the early days like for you?
All right. Well, my background is music and theater. I have a master's degree in conducting. I have performed singing in Carnegie Hall, Notre Dame Cathedral, Westminster Abbey, beautiful places. I conduct here in the Bay Area and perform weekly, pretty much. I was a teacher of the performing arts. Thank you, Dr. Bob. I was a teacher of the performing arts. Everything in music, everything in theater, I've taught it. I've done it from beginning levels to professional. And while I was teaching, it was back in 2012. That is when I was diagnosed with an incurable illness, they called it, right? An incurable illness, and it was ulcerative colitis. And it led me on a real journey. I'll tell you, I have learned so much over the time. But I went in and was diagnosed, and they gave me 9 pills a day for the rest of my life. And they told me no matter what I did, it wouldn't make any difference. I could never get off the medication, not to even try.
So for our listeners that may not be familiar, what were some of those signs or the symptoms that you knew you needed to go get checked?
It comes with severe abdominal pain, severe gas and bloating, bleeding when it's ulcerative. When you get to that level, you're bleeding, and constipation, diarrhea, very miserable, horrible, horrible symptoms. And I was having those symptoms, and I had had them for a while. I am not one that normally goes to the doctors. I usually find my path. And that's what I did ultimately anyway. But I did get the diagnosis, which I'm grateful for, because that really secured me into what I needed to look for and learn and do.
Was that immediately the first time you went in, or was it multiple visits to finally get to that diagnosis?
First time I went in, they booked me for a sigmoidoscopy. I did that hesitantly, honestly. And then a couple of weeks later, they sent me back in for a colonoscopy, and they gave me the diagnosis and the prescription.
So let's go back to that prescription. So you said it was 6 pills that you
9.
would have 9 pills. Wow. And so tell me what that first recommendation was all about. What was the medication and how often?
It was balsalazide, and it's an anti-inflammatory drug that they give, synthetic. It's a drug. It is not something that your body wants to have in it. It's not natural. It's not healthy. It's basically just to help ease the symptoms and the inflammation. And, they said you'll never get off it. Don't even try. And that was because it doesn't fix the problem. It doesn't address the cause, because they didn't know the cause. They didn't know a cure. I do both now. I know both. But at the time, they were just bandaging it and saying for life, I was going to just be trying to cover it up and hopefully not have it get worse. Now, once I was given that, I knew immediately I was going to start a journey of learning and healing and finding a different path, because I studied the illness then and saw that people died from it. They had chemotherapy. They had their gut removed, through surgeries. They had surgeries, the colon removed and things like that. So it was all things that I knew was not for me. It was not my path. It was not what I wanted for my life.
Yeah,
and so
that was one thing I was going to, I'm glad in some ways, glad you brought that up and went down that path. I mean, people, I don't know how widespread ulcerative colitis is, but I know when people hear about it, sometimes they say, oh, well, it's a little discomfort. But as you pointed out, it's something that can be very, very serious and can cause people can die from it.
It can. And there's over 70 million people in America dealing with digestive issues, whether it's IBS, whether it's colitis, ulcerative colitis, Crohn's, chronic constipation. Those main categories that they've called them, those different ones, over 70 million are suffering from it. It's a big deal. And I know personally a young woman who went through chemotherapy for the same problems. So, I mean, there's a lot of different things like that become very serious. And like I said, some have died. I found that in my research. So yeah, it's not just a discomfort, and it's very, very uncomfortable, very difficult to go through, especially trying to live your life while you're going through it, right?
And so, you mentioned they didn't know the cure for it. And something just popped into my mind, and maybe it's because we talk so much about this, but this is the first time it actually popped into my mind there, is what's your opinion? I'll ask a leading question here. Mm-hmm. Do you think it's because standard medical care in the US is one of two things? It's either surgery to cut or sew, or it's pharmaceuticals to address it in some fashion. Do you think that's why the vast majority of things there are seen as incurable?
I believe so. The cure is out there, and it has been for over 40 years, but they won't acknowledge that.
Great, beautiful.
And it didn't start until after World War II when synthetic antibiotics were brought out.
Beautiful.
I've done a lot of research, a lot of studies.
I know you have. And you want to get
and it's interesting because I actually was it 3 or 4 years ago?
I cranked you up there.
You did. You got me into it now. Okay. About 3 or 4 years ago, I was talking to a medical doctor. And of course, when you say you've had ulcerative colitis, they say you still have it. It never goes away, right? Mm-hmm. And I said, I had it. I don't have it anymore. And he goes, well, what do you think caused it? And I told him.
What did you think caused it?
I know it was antibiotics. Okay. And he looked at me. This is the first time I've had a doctor do this. He looked at me and he goes, I believe you're right.
Wow. Amazing.
I know it. I know it without a doubt because of the protocol, because of the study I've done and the things I've been through. I know what caused it. But for him to say that was really actually a surprise to me because no doctor has done that before. They just say, well, you still have it, and it's.
So I have a question.
Yeah, they don't acknowledge a cause.
So tell me about the antibiotics, the term, how long you had them for? What did they give them to you for?
Well, I've had antibiotics throughout my life. As a child, even, I had a lot of them given to me. I went through a period of many years, couple decades of ear infections, which they would just throw an antibiotic on it, which eventually I was persistent enough to talk to a doctor and have him give me a natural remedy, which has cured it. And I've never gone back since, probably 25 years ago.
So you got a lot so you can't identify, this was the antibiotic drug and this was the incident. It was just cumulative probably over time.
Well, I know that, but also I in 2019, I connected with a natural gastroenterologist who has been healing all of these illnesses for over 40 years. And he has shown, and I can explain all of that to you, and kind of out of order here in my thought process.
That's all right. But hold there just.
His whole thing is on the synthetic antibiotics.
Hold there just for a second, Lori. This is you just threw out a Breck Rice word to me. Breck's always doing this to me. He says you went to one of those big schools. I know you understand this stuff, and I don't. You said a natural gastroenterologist. What? Yes. Explain that. What is that?
A gastroenterologist is one who works with the gut. A doctor who works with the gut, but he's a holistic one. He was a natural gastroenterologist. So his focus was healing all of these, what we call acquired inflammatory bowel injuries, which other people call IBD, IBS, colitis, ulcerative colitis, Crohn's. They're really all the same. Their root cause is all the same. The cure is basically the same. It isn't autoimmune attacking, your immune system attacking yourself like some people think it is. It isn't genetic, which some people think it is. If you look online, you'll see back and forth arguments about those two things. It's neither one of those. It is a man-made injury, a condition. And I can explain that whole thing to you if you'd like to hear that. But it's all the same. It's kind of like, if you think of a burn,
we'll go into that. But now I want to take you back just a little bit, Lori. Well, I love the enthusiasm. I love you going on there. You want to get the message out. But we got to help people along here a little bit.
Okay.
Because we're having to cut Dr. Bob off. I saw him shaking his hands in his face when you said there's no, you were told there's no cure for this. But yeah, that's right. We'll get into that.
Because one of the things we do with this, you're a wellness hero. And so people want to figure out how did their hero do this? How did they accomplish this? And how did they handle this? So we want to make sure we get into that to help people out as well.
I'd like them to know what it is, though, so they
Right.
understand what it is.
I understand, but as part of that, often sometimes when people go in and I almost did this myself when I went and had a preliminary diagnosis here a year and a half ago, but I stopped myself on it. People go in and they go to this trusted doctor, and they hear this diagnosis on it, and they say, okay, fine, I'll just follow this path. What was your reaction when you got that diagnosis first? Compound question. And what made you decide that, as you've said a couple of times here, oh, that's not the path. That's not the path for me. I'm going to do something different here.
I had already been studying before I went in. I already had a clue what it was.
Okay.
And immediately I am a natural healer. I will always tend to look for the natural way, the way that is best for my body. I am not one to go for drugs. And when they said the prescription, immediately I was like, okay, I'm going to find a different way. And it was interesting because I told them within the first year I was off the meds. I've been off all medications, everything, over the counter, everything for over 12 years. Okay. So you get an idea of who I am. Okay. But within 1 year, I was off that medication, which they said I would never in my life be able to get off. And I told my doctor I was going to wean off it. I was going to take a pill or two off each month, right? And of course, he says, you shouldn't do that. If you get the symptoms, get right back on it, get right back on. It's like this driving fear, which I don't live by fear, I live by faith. And so for me, that didn't really bother me because I knew my path was not going to be that way, and I was going to find a better way. One that I was comfortable with.
Right. Breck and I had this person the other day, and I should have followed up with this question, but maybe I was afraid of the answer, so I didn't have to get into a debate. Where she said, my faith is my foundation and my anchor. So, but I'm going to ask it this time, Breck. So, what faith, Lori? What faith is your anchor?
You mean what religion do I go to? Is that
it could be,
or just yeah?
No, you said faith.
I'm a member of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, but I everything in my life, I say yes. I say yes to the inspiration. Everything I've done, you saw the list of things that I do currently. All of those things have come to me through inspiration, and I have taken action. When I'm inspired to do something, when I'm driven to do something, I don't ever think it's too big. It's not too hard. It's not, I can't do it. It's just, yes, I will do it. And I will find a way. And it was the same with this. This was a big undertaking for me because I didn't study health and wellness until then. That was my music and theater was my life, right? And so I seriously, I dove in and I became a board certified health coach, an optimal life designer, a certified essential oil coach. And I found the cause and the cure. You know what I'm saying? I step into it when I believe there's a path for me, and it shifted my whole life. It shifted the path I was on completely.
So you got that faith, and I am a believer in Jesus Christ myself. But I do like to ask that faith. Well, now I do ask that faith, and I don't necessarily want to proselytize everybody, but so often I hear people these days say, "I ask the universe, and the universe is getting back to me." For me, you're asking the creation, and there are laws the universe operates by, and if you understand those laws have been put in place in design, then fine, tie into them. But I don't ask the universe for anything. I ask my Lord and Savior for those things. That's my faith. But I want to understand your faith.
Yes, and that is the same.
Okay,
absolutely.
All right. So I was about to ask another question, Lori, but you're like an old.
You're afraid to ask one now.
I know, but no, it's kind of like a coach. I was raised in Grand Island, Nebraska. That used to be until the railroad did something. A big Union Pacific town, and you get those trains rolling through there, sometimes 100 cars long. You're like one of those big trains, Lori. You just get rolling, and I don't want to get in front of you anymore. So before I ask you the question, what have you got to say right now? Okay.
Oh my goodness! Now where was I?
So I guess we're getting to the cure later. Are we doing that later? Is that what we're doing? Or can we?
Let me take you through the journey a little bit. Okay, so in 2012 I was diagnosed. I started managing it all naturally within a year, and I was doing pretty well. Occasionally symptoms would come back, so I knew it wasn't healed completely. And I hit a point in 2018 where my career as a teacher was becoming extremely stressful. I had zero time freedom. I taught everything in music and theater. I had all the morning after school rehearsals, all the concerts, tours, trips, football games. It was all on me. And one of my classes was 240 kids. Whoa. So you can feel there was a lot there. And my mother was dying. I only had a couple years left with her. And I knew I could not fully heal with that kind of stress because stress triggers everything, right? We know that.
Yeah.
Yes.
And I needed to be able to get healed and be there for my mom. And so I went to an event. It happened to be a Tony Robbins event, who I didn't know at the time. I do now. I didn't then. And I came away with three things. I knew, number one, I had to walk away from my career. This was 16 years in. It was my life path, I thought. Okay. I also taught privately. I had my own business teaching on top of all the school stuff, right? But I knew without a doubt I needed to let go of that. And I knew without a doubt I needed to focus my life on love and connection, which has been life-changing since 2018. I knew that I had to be free to give. I had this desire to be free to give. And I came away with what I call the 5 freedoms. I'm putting this in a book. I coach it. I'm living it. When you have the freedom of health, which has to be first, the freedom of time, location, purpose, and finance, you can create your optimal life, which is why I call myself an optimal life designer. And you can create a life that allows you to be free to give in all areas. So I began 1 month later, I stepped away from my career and I began a journey as a global, I'm a visionary, global coach in life and health. My path shifted. It wasn't done. It shifted there. And I began putting myself out as a coach, quickly realized I needed more marketing, and I invested the next 4 years with the industry leaders being trained on building sales funnels, social media ads, all of that, including a new industry called challenge marketing. Pedro Deo, who is the industry leader of challenge marketing, he's the challenge guy. He's been hired by Tony Robbins, Dean Graciosi, Les Brown, Russell Brunson, all of my mentors. I've studied under all of them. They've all hired him for his framework and model in creating their marketing strategy using his model for challenges.
Now, I'm going to step in front of the train now, Lori.
Okay, you're going to be in trouble. Be careful.
Going off that way. This is good. And hey, they've had a couple of comments over on Facebook. One from someone that we both know, who
Awesome.
I won't mention the name, but he says, "Boy, Lori is good." Another person, a childhood friend of mine, said, "Boy, this is good." But I'm still going to
Great.
step in front of the train here now, right? So you're taking on the
You're-
marketing.
Tim, you're just saying all that to soften the train wreck. That's what
He
you're
gets me in a roll, you know, he gets me in a roll and then he just puts the brake on.
Right. But so because you went off to the marketing part, and that's part of your mission now.
It's part of that journey. Yes.
Healing the world. But now let's talk about how you accumulated. You've always been a natural person, but how did you accumulate the information to heal yourself? And
I'm getting there. I'm getting there.
But now we got to go to that part.
All right.
First.
So in 2018, when I started as a coach, I had already become a board certified health coach. I started that in 2016. I had already become a life coach or optimal life designer. I had also been certified as an essential oil coach. I started my journey of healing, diving in and utilizing essential oils, herbs, and creating a healthier diet. I've always been fairly good about food, but I went to all organic, grass-fed meats, no dairy, no sugar, no processed foods. I completely cleaned it out because I didn't know what to do. I knew I had to figure this out. And I was trying to do everything I could to make things work for my body. Now, there were certain foods I couldn't eat and it would trigger problems. And so I learned I couldn't take seeds. I couldn't do nuts. I couldn't, corn. Those were things that were problems for the digestive tract. So I had to get those out, right? So it was a process. In 2019, this is 1 year later, I thought I had kind of got it until about February of 2019. And I got kind of sick just before I went on a trip to Italy. When I came back from that trip, my mother spiraled down and I went into high stress mode with her. I had to get her in the hospital. Then we had to find her 24-hour care, get rid of the home, go through all this. It was all at the same time. And it brought me back into all the symptoms. And I knew it wasn't healed. I was thinking I was close. And so I went 3 months. It was probably the worst of all of my time dealing with this. Those 3 months, I could not eat anything. I was doing shakes when I could handle the shakes. I was frantically researching other people who had been through things to see what I was missing, searching for answers, prayed for answers, now that you mentioned that, Tim. And June 1st, 3 months later, June 1st is when that natural gastroenterologist came onto my Facebook feed.
Was it trial and error, though? Understanding
it was at the beginning.
Okay, because
Yes.
all of our listeners are wondering, what foods did you immediately eliminate, and did you just have to do one by one?
Yeah, I went through all of those things. I went through the oils, the herbs, the healthy foods, right? And then starting to take out things that would cause triggers, that would cause the symptoms to be worse. But when that stress hit, it threw me again. And so when I got connected to this doctor, when I saw his ad on Facebook, actually, I saw a testimonial of a lady who had a teenage son who had severe Crohn's all the way through his body. Now, I haven't gotten to explain what those are. I want to do that so people understand. But he had severe Crohn's and had been tested, had been scanned. He had ulcers all the way through the tract. I mean, it was severe, and he'd had it for a long time. When you have that, it scars. It leaves marks, right? He went on the protocol with this doctor, got retested, and they said it didn't look like he'd ever had it in his entire life. There was no scarring. There was no marks from the ulcers. It was gone. And that was why I stepped in. I made the phone call and I began learning his protocol, which has been able to rebuild the entire mucosal lining of the body, which has taken away all of the colitis. It's gone.
Okay.
So
one thing here before you continue, a couple things. Well,
what's the protocol? That's what I'm wondering.
well, hold on, because you mentioned essential oils earlier on. I don't want to assume that everybody understands what essential oils are. So what are essential oils? What do you think they brought to the table for you, Lori?
Well, I still use them every day. They're all around my home. Those are essential oils are pure oils. And I have found the highest grade quality oil that's what I use.
What is that?
It's doTERRA is the brand I recommend. Internally, externally, it's the brand I recommend. It is the highest standard, highest quality I have found.
Right. But they're oils from what?
From plants and roots and flowers, right? They're different ones. And so what I did was I studied all of those. I became certified as a essential oil coach, not through doTERRA, but through an institute of the science of it, right? So this was general, right?
Yeah.
And I've learned which oils were the ones that I needed to be utilizing and that helped my body. Now, every body is going to react differently to different things. And that was the key thing is I had to find my path. I had to find what worked for me in food, what worked for me in herbs and oils, all of those things. And so even with the protocol, the things that he used, the natural supplements that he recommended, certain ones worked well for me, certain ones didn't. We adjusted them. We changed the amounts to where it worked for my body. And I learned how to do that. Okay. And I was able to get rid of it and heal.
And so essential oils, so they can be diffused into aerosols in the body. Some they can be body a little bit. Which way did you take them and still what do you think? You had a recipe here.
All of the ways. I used them all the ways. I used them diffused, I used them topically, and I used them internally.
And what do you think they generated for your body in those?
I think that they did a lot of the healing especially at the beginning. They didn't cure it, but they definitely helped with symptoms and alleviated the problems. And I believe they are immune boosting, and you need to have immune boosting things in your life, right? So that is one part of the healthy. See, I don't do any over the counter drugs or anything. I healed COVID 4 times with essential oils, and I did it in a day and a half. Essential oils, herbs, and healthier foods. And that's what I do. And so when you learn which ones have the properties that can help with those specific symptoms or problems, or which can be preventative of certain illnesses, right? If you start to get a sore throat, there are things you can do so that it doesn't escalate, right? So you just learn through that process. That's what I did. I did the same, even with the protocol. We looked at how I was handling what it was doing, and I was able to work it through and be able to get rid of it. Right. Now, if you think about the GI tract, it's like about 30 feet through the body. Okay. It's skin, fat, and muscle, right? And that tract inside it, in the tissues, there's blood vessels, there's nerves, and on top of it is a covering, which is called the mucosal lining. And when you get an irritable bowel syndrome, or you get colitis, or you get Crohn's, what's happened is it's damaged that lining. That lining has been caused damage, which is what the antibiotics did, because it kills the bacteria. It causes holes. It causes holes, which then allows stomach acid, digestive acids, fibers, foods to irritate the skin. And as it goes into that and it gets into the blood vessels, it starts to create ulcers, which then cause bleeding, which then the bleeding comes through the colon and out through the bowels, which is what ulcerative colitis is. And Crohn's is another level of that. So if you have a burn at 1st degree, 2nd degree, 3rd degree, IBS is 1st degree, colitis is 2nd, ulcerative colitis, when it gets to the ulcer point, is 3rd, Crohn's is fourth, and then chronic constipation is fifth. They're all the same. They're all caused by the same. They're all cured in the same way, but they're different levels of severity. And yet, if you look in the medical descriptions, there are diseases that are either autoimmune or genetically driven, and they're incurable, and there is no known cause. Completely separate, completely different idea. This makes total sense, though, when you look at this. It's.
Brett's got
I see that. He's got something to say.
No, I'm so fascinated. So I'm wanting to better understand, though, this process. Was it all oils and nutrition, or were you using, PEMF and other, known devices to help with reducing inflammation?
No, actually, no. I did use essential oils all the way through. I did go with healthier foods. When I got on his protocol, he has certain natural supplements that we use. And we restricted the diet. There were several months where I was not able, in fact, before him, I couldn't do it either. I couldn't eat any raw fruits and vegetables for a long period. Now I can eat everything. But you have to allow the healing to happen. And when you eat raw fruits and vegetables, those fibers are really irritating to the skin that's not covered by the lining. Mm-hmm. So you have to allow that to rebuild and replace that lining before you take those things that are roughage, that are harder on the body and the digestive tract.
How long was that process for you?
He kind of says it's normally like 3 to 6 months for people. I think for me, it was about 8 months. I had gone a long time. I had gone years without having it seen, right? So for me, it was pretty severe. And I think it took me a little longer than some, but I believe it was about 8 months straight on that protocol that I did that. And I thought it would be really hard because I'm a fruit lover. It's my favorite, right? And I have fruit trees in my backyard and I couldn't touch them. It was so hard for me. But once I got into that, your body adapts, it changes, and you don't crave things. It's like when you take sugar out, at first it's like, right? But then it's like you don't crave it anymore. So that's what happened to me. I had to take out everything that was raw vegetables, raw fruits. There were only a couple of fruits I could eat, like mango and banana, the softer things, right? None of the vegetables. I could eat them cooked, but I couldn't eat them raw. I couldn't have nuts. I couldn't have seeds, corn. Those were all hard to digest items, things that would have stopped it from healing. I had to allow it to rebuild itself. And so with the supplements that he gave and the healthier diet that was appropriate for what I was dealing with at the time, I had to just shift myself for a little while. And then once I was symptom free, I could start bringing those foods back. And I realized I could eat any of it now. I can eat anything right now. So during that time, I couldn't, which was why I was sent into just shakes and, trying to just get something down, right? Because I couldn't eat food.
Yeah, it's the same with every condition that I'm aware of and that I've helped people move beyond. You got to get into balance first before you do anything else. If you don't get balance, you're going to just tear yourself down, really. Yeah,
and because it's a deteriorated mucosal lining, eating those foods would be rough on it and would continue to irritate and cause bleeding and ulcers. It wouldn't be able to heal itself. Yeah. You have to remove all of the harshness, all of the things that were abrasive internally so that it could have the time it needed to reheal. I believe our bodies can heal, right?
Was that the cure? Taking out the roughage and was that the cure? I'm trying to
get that with the supplements that he had us do. Okay. Yeah.
So in other words, dietary adjustment,
and some natural supplements.
What kind of supplements?
Things like probiotics, colostrum, ground, very fine flaxseed, because you needed fiber, but you couldn't have it rough, right? So it was just very specific. There were about 5 things that I used. One of the supplements he had, I tried for a while. I couldn't use it. We took it out. And I didn't use it anymore, right? Because my body just wouldn't react with that one. So it was trial and error in a degree, but he had specific things that would allow. They were what makes your body. They were able to help rebuild the tissue and rebuild the mucosal lining, and that's why it's like starting your body over. It's a whole new lining inside your body, right?
Yeah, great, fantastic.
And we get antibiotics through the air, through water, through food, not just in pills. I mean, it's all over. It's everywhere around us now. Even our soaps, antibacterial soaps, those are all causing problems.
Jeez.
And those are all the things that have brought these illnesses to light after World War II. Once those synthetic antibiotics and antibacterial products came out, all of these issues were found. They weren't there before World War II. Penicillin wasn't strong enough to do that. But now we have antibiotics that kill anthrax. They're deadly. They're powerful. And that bacteria that our body is made of can't withstand it. And so it takes that lining away and leaves it vulnerable to all of the acids and causes all the problems.
So
it's been amazing.
So would you say that if you were not taking the essential oils, that the dietary adjustment and the supplements would have been sufficient to?
I think it would have been sufficient. I think, because I mean,
I love essential oils. Don't get me wrong.
I do too.
I use them every day too.
But I think that is one of the key things that allows me to not have any over-the-counter drugs, period.
Yeah, they're very, very.
I don't use any prescription. I don't use any over-the-counter. And I'm very rarely ill, ever, almost never. And when I did get COVID, because I travel a lot, I travel all over the world with what I do. When I did get that, I was able to heal with those natural oils and herbs and healthy food. That's all I did.
Nice.
That's amazing. So Lori, before we jump into how you turned pain into purpose, we're going to take a short break and talk about a product that I use. Have you seen this yet? It's NeuroGum. So
no, I don't think so.
Yeah, NeuroGum is pretty amazing. I saw it on the #1 podcast in the world. So I thought, hey, if it's good enough for that show, it's good enough for the almost #1 podcast in the world, the WellWaveNOW show. So it has natural nootropics for energy and focus, natural caffeine, vitamin B12, B6, you know how good those are for you, and also the amino acid L-theanine, also known for improving cognitive function. It's sugar-free and it tastes great. So refresh your body and mind with NeuroGum. So I have a coupon in those that are joining us live on TikTok. You'll be able to see that in the TikTok shop. So back to the show. So let's turn our focus on how you have now. What have you done with all this experience, right? All this pain, all this, educating yourself, taking the natural approach. How have you turned that into now purpose for you and what you do today, Lori?
Well, it's been quite an amazing journey. All of the things I've learned through this process, through life, through health, through marketing, through coaching and business, all of these things I'm now using to serve people in need around the world. I was putting myself out as a coach, and a young man from Kenya found me on Facebook and messaged for help. He was in desperate need of help. So I got him on Zoom because I want to see the people I speak with and make sure that we're good, right? And I asked him to share his story. He was 24. He had was an only child. He had gone on a 2-year church mission to Sierra Leone from Nairobi, Kenya. And when he left on his mission, his parents were killed. Sad. His extended family were of a different faith, and they blamed him for the death of his parents, and they cut him off. Now, he had gone when he was 22. When I met him, he was 24. He had come back from his mission. When he came back from his mission, he found his uncle had sold his house and all of their belongings. Everything was gone. There was nothing left. And they lived in an area that was more poverty area outside of Nairobi, but they did have a home. And he had a bed and he had clothes. Everything was gone. And so when he found me, he had been on the streets trying to survive for 8 months. And he told me he was really struggling. And he told me that he would spend every day in the orphanages, the children's homes, taking care of kids that had no family. That's what he would do. And I could tell in that conversation, this young man needed help and he had a heart of gold. I could feel it. I told you I live by inspiration, right? I act when I'm inspired. So I began helping him. I got him in an apartment. Together we designed, through coaching, we designed a business that he could do, that he wanted to do to serve his community. Got him into online schooling. He has now completed 3 degrees on full scholarship, 1 here in the States in the health industry, and 2 in Nairobi in business and tech. He's amazing. It's amazing. While I was coaching him in January of 22 was the moment that I was inspired that I needed to start a global nonprofit organization. Now, remember, since 2018, I'd been focusing my life on love and connection. Mm-hmm. It had prepared my heart for this. In that moment, I knew everything about this organization as if it already existed. It was the Lori Landin Foundation. My tagline would be bringing nations together in service, in unity, and in love. And my process would be different than any other organization that I've ever known. It would be reaching out to the one in their unique needs, serving individuals, families, and organizations, helping meet their need, helping them become self-reliant and want to give back. Now, we were on a coaching call at that time, right? I knew instantly this is what it was. 2 days later, I was serving the veterans because I do that here in California. And I met a gentleman who had a consultant for nonprofits. 1 day later, she was my consultant. 1 month later, I was a 501c3. I took off on a trip to Scotland, and 2 weeks later, I was flying by myself to Africa. I act when I'm inspired, right?
So you act when you're inspired. But what I'm looking for clarification on, I guess I would put it that way, is did you leap? You've been focused on love and connection, but did you leap right from healing yourself into this bigger picture, or was there a step in between where you did
there was about a year in between, and I was just putting myself out as a coach and serving people, and I was still studying marketing during that time. And of course, all through this, I still do music. Music has still always been a part of what I do. So I do a lot of things in church, in community, in privately, performing myself, conducting choirs and orchestras out here in California. I do a lot out here, but I wasn't teaching full time anymore.
Okay.
And my focus during that year was really coaching people and coaching him when I found him. And then also mastering and becoming certified as a challenge consultant for businesses. All of that piece was happening during that time.
Okay. So did your healing just enable you to be able to do these things? Did your healing contribute to you being able to do these things? What role did your journey, your wellness journey, play in the Lori Landin Foundation formulation?
It was a pivotal moment in my life. And what I have learned over my experience in life is that the obstacle is the way. Every challenge I've had in my life, and I could go through a lot of them with you, every one of them have caused me to pivot, have caused me to be refined, to learn, to grow, to be able to serve more. And what this has done for me, number one, it shifted me from my path, which I thought was music teaching the rest of my life, right? It shifted me from there, got me into coaching, which led me to this young man, which led me to the foundation. And now I'm serving in 6 countries. I have 26 countries waiting for me to open service. We do all kinds of things. Every skill I have learned, I now share and help people with in their own lives, whether it's life, health, business, marketing, whether it's providing food for orphans, whether it's rescuing kids from floodwaters, whether it's helping disabled or elderly, whether it's transferring the water in the slums to clean water, whether it's saving lives from malaria, whether it's a soccer club that I have in Nairobi, Kenya, that has become the top players in all of Kenya and been named that by the Football Kenya Federation chairman. These are orphan children. Whether it's the children I'm educating in Pakistan at our library and learning center that I'm building there.
Lori, you're
Whatever
getting
way, I am utilizing
hearts right now on
all of those
media.
skills. Yeah, beautiful.
So many hearts right now.
But it's true.
So
I mean, it's just being
all
able
of that,
to.
Yeah, everything that you're doing though, that all takes a lot of resources, including money, right? So where does that all come from?
That is my biggest need.
Yeah.
I can do the service. I have the people, but I need more funding because I can't fund all the world's needs. We have been blessed, just to give you some idea. Okay. Since 22, when I founded this organization, right? We're talking about 3 years. We have saved over 700 individuals through medical care, thousands of orphan children through medical care, food, water, also providing clothing, school supplies, school fees. We've rescued 277 orphan children from the floodwaters. Just this last week, we rescued 17 families and children, including children, from the floodwaters in Kenya, and we have now saved them. We've provided over 55 burials. We're educating. We're putting in gardens. We've got the soccer club. There's all these different things that we've done in 3 years. It honestly it feels miraculous.
Okay.
And when I speak to other organizations who have been around for decades, they say, I don't even understand how you've done all this.
Right. So you've had high impact, a lot of good things there done by inspiration. And you're being, you've got figures behind what you've accomplished, and you're being transparent with us here. People that want to give, how do you maintain that transparency with them? And then, how can they contribute to you in one fashion or another?
Okay. We do have links. I have Venmo and Cash App as well. Some people prefer that, but we do have a main donation link that keeps track of all of their donations. They can become recurring donors if they would like, which I call Giving Heart Partners. If they have a business, I will promote their business on my site as a business partner if they do that. And I would love to talk with them directly. I can give them the link directly, or they can go to our website and get the link. It's very easy to be able to donate.
you might as well give that website now.
Okay.
But I've got a follow-up question for you. But go ahead,
I have several websites, but the Lori Landin Foundation.org is where you'll find that donation link directly. It's the Lori Landin. It's not just Lori. It's the Lori Landin.
Right. And spell that out, if you will, for people who will be listening to us on.
Okay. So the, and then LORILANDIN. It looks like Landon, but we pronounce it Landin. So Landon, right? The Lori Landin Foundation.org.
Okay.
And they can also call me directly. I will give you my cell phone because I text me. Let's set up a Zoom call. I would love to connect with you and share directly. And anyone that donates, I'm here to share the stories, to let you know where that's going. I even have a Facebook group of some of my donors who are recurring donors, so I can share some of that stuff out as well. So they can be very open with where that money's being used. And they can know me directly, which is unnormal. You know, it's not normal for people to be able to do that with an organization.
And I didn't ask you. That's good transparency. That was part of the follow-up. And I didn't ask you this question, so I'm just putting this. This is coming to me, and I'm putting it out there. The people that you help, or the entities that you help out there, do they provide testimonials to you? Are there ways that people can see that?
Yeah, I don't have a lot of those yet. I haven't done a lot of video because when I'm there, my hands are filled with kids. My arms are full. But I am working on getting more video work and having them connect with me with some testimonials. I've got a few, but not many are on my page yet, my site, but I will be putting more up. I've got my guys working on getting some testimonials from the people that we're serving.
Because in the human realm, I follow Ronald Reagan a little bit, which is always trust but verified. So,
and that's important. It's important, which is why I do have pictures and I do speak to people directly and share because it is important. And you'll also see when you do the donation link, there are people that are donating and recurring donors. And so you can know that those people are trusting because they're doing it as a recurring donation. So it helps to build that trust. I network. I'm director of networking for a global organization. As you know, Tim, that's where I met you. And I am constantly speaking to people every day and sharing these stories and bringing people on board as far as helping them understand exactly where that money goes and what it's for.
So that's that portion. I want to bring you back a little bit to help our audience on their healing. So to the mighty train that is Lori Landin, what are the lessons learned if you go back through from that diagnosis, from the pre-diagnosis to the diagnosis to the steps that you take? What's your formula? What's the lessons learned that you want people to take away when they are facing something chronic that people say medication is your only choice and this is uncurable?
Well, first, I want to say our bodies are very powerful and they're very capable of healing when given the things that they need to heal. And each one of you, no matter what you're going through, you are capable and you have the ability to make your choice. It is a choice. I didn't have to choose what I did. I could have gone with the norm, and who knows if I'd be here or not today. I don't know. My life would be very different. I made the choice that I wanted to heal naturally because to me that was important. And if they want to, I believe every one of them has the ability to do that. I really do. And I'm happy to call and do a call with them and talk with them about that whole process. I believe that number one, you don't lose hope. Your mindset is very important. You have to keep that belief in who you are and what your ability is. You have to believe in yourself or borrow belief from someone else, right? Because if you lose hope and you lose belief, you're not going to take any action and you're going to give up. And giving up on a chronic illness doesn't lead to much life, right? So I think those are two key things. Number three, reduce the stress. You have to learn to let go of stress. And if you need help, see me, talk with me about it.
Yeah, you didn't say much about how you did that in your journey. So what were the techniques that you used to relieve stress, which is absolutely vital in the healing process?
Right. And the times when I got the symptoms back, those were those stressful moments. But what I did was I really worked on, along with my diet and that healing part, the oils were a huge part of relieving stress. Every morning, every night, I would apply the oils. I would have them diffusing through the day. I created a morning and evening routine, which is a whole other story I could share with you. And I coach that. I would be happy to share that. But creating that morning routine and evening routine allowed me to start my day calm, planned, prepared, to let me be more accomplishing throughout that day. And at night, the reflection, the planning for the next day set me up for a calm morning. I go to bed at 9 o'clock at night. I get up at 4 o'clock without an alarm every day. No matter what time zone I'm in, my body has it figured out because of the routine, which has allowed me to do that. Now, the other piece is that optimal life part I told you about, right? Those 5 freedoms. I've applied that to my life. So I've created a life that allows me to have time freedom, purpose freedom. I live in purpose. Everything I do is done in purpose. I create, my day, my schedule, everything is done by me. It didn't start that way. And when I was a teacher, I had 0 freedoms. I had none of that. But I have created a life now where I do a lot. If you've seen my bio, I do a lot. But every day is amazing. And what I say, work, play, service, and love are all the same thing for me.
Beautiful discussion there. It's apparent you're a strong person. Did you have a support system that helped you through this? So did you have a support system, and if so, how important was that to you? And then how did you go about finding the resources that you trusted to even do the trial and error and the experiment and finding this gastrointestinal doctor?
I'm a learner.
Okay.
I'm a studier. I research. I look. I find things. And when I feel like this person has something I need, I study it. I listen to it. And I take what I need out of it. Okay. I'm also a teacher, right? So it goes both ways. But
how'd you find it? Did you Google? Did you call around?
I did a lot of Googling. I looked at videos. I looked in Facebook. I looked in those places. And I looked for people that I trusted. I found people that I had trust in, and I began to study what they had. I believed in myself. I don't doubt my abilities. I have been that way, but I've been a performing arts girl all my life. I toured Europe with 16 singing in Carnegie Hall. So I've always been like that. I've been driven. I've been learning. I got my master's degree. I mean, I've always been a studier. And so I research things. I look at different people. I study it. I see if it partly feels right to me because I do go by my gut a lot. But I also look at the people's testimonials of the people that like that doctor, for example. I looked at that because I wanted to see that people were having success through it before I spoke with him. So I do a lot of the research. And I do use Google. I do use the computer a lot to find things. And I know there's good and bad there, but I look very carefully and I study different things and I decide what it is I feel I can trust. I think that's kind of where I would put that. And that's important, because you're talking about your life, but you can't turn your health over to someone else. No matter how great the doctor is, they are not you.
Yeah.
You know what you're feeling. You know what your body's telling you. And that's why part of that inflammation part isn't so good, because it's taking away the language from the body, telling you what's right and wrong. It's very, you have to be careful with that, drugs and things like that. But I really feel like it's just, you've got to take responsibility for your health, because without your health, nothing else matters. I couldn't be serving these people around the world if I was in the situation I was in before. I couldn't do it, nor would my heart have been prepared, because focusing my life on love and connection has changed that. But you have to make sure that your health is first, that you get yourself in line. And from those obstacles, from those challenges of overcoming and learning, you are refined. You are blessed and being able to bless others more from the knowledge you've gained, the experience you've had, all of that refining that's taken place in your own life now can bless other people. And that's where I'm at with this. I can bless other people. Anyone that wants me to coach them, I'm here. If you want to ask questions, I'm here. People I serve around the world who are in poverty, living in slums, living in difficult situations, I'm here, and I'm able to use the things I've learned to save and change lives every day.
That's amazing, Lori. And as we wrap up our discussion with you today, just to remind our listeners again how to reach out to you and contact you, certainly go to the website, the Lori, Lori, Landin, Landin, foundation.org. And
also, you can also go to LoriLandin.com. It's the same spelling. And you can use my cell phone, 916-660-2039. 916-660-2039. Text me. Let's set up a time to do a call. I'd love to get on a Zoom call with anyone that has questions or would like to know more. I'm here for you.
And with as many people that are, suffering with similar digestive issues, what did you say the number was? 70 million? 70
million in the United States. And there's 107 different diseases that are connected to gut health.
Yeah. So we all know somebody or somebody listening is dealing with an issue today. What's the, you're a support to them then is what you're saying. And so what somebody listening that knows somebody could certainly refer them to you as a support.
Absolutely.
Okay,
absolutely.
And
I can always connect them to that protocol and the things that I did specifically if they have those questions.
Great. One more time on that cell number, Lori.
916-660-2039. It's easier to text me first because I am in meetings most of the day. So if you text me, we'll set up a Zoom call and get a call and I'm happy to share.
Well, Lori, thank you so much for being our guest today. It's absolutely been amazing journey with you and to hear about your personal journey. Your story is powerful and your purpose is certainly clear now on what you're doing with the rest of your life. And that is absolutely amazing. So we're so glad to have you on today. And until next time, to everybody listening, stay curious, stay empowered, and remember, wellness, it's in you.